There are two large myths that students and parents and teachers often think, and they're true. So, in this episode, we're going to debunk those two myths. Hi, if we haven't met before, I'm Michelle Mugridge. I am the founder of Thinking Math Corner, and I focus on all things thinking in our math classrooms, primarily focusing on middle and high school math classrooms. I was just recording a video for my self-paced course, Teach for Thinking. I'll put a link in the description for you if you're interested. So there are two myths that are prevalent in our society right now. And myth number one is that teaching for thinking is only for early finishers. It's for your smart kids. It's for your students that get things quickly. It's the enrichment. False. That is not true. Teaching for thinking is for everyone. Thinking is not the reward. It is the learning. If we don't start to think about concepts and make connections and talk about concepts and interact between different representations, then we won't actually have a good understanding of that concept. And it's not just for students that are succeeding in the traditional system. I often have conversations with fellow teachers about the fact that if students are struggling, we should just revert to the procedure. Just teach them the steps, they can do the steps, and then they're successful. And I would argue that we're doing them a disservice with that. While it is definitely less time consuming, it is easier for everyone, it is not teaching them how to learn. It is not improving the results. Yes, they're able to perform a procedure, but only for as long as they've memorized that procedure. Once they've stopped with the memory process for that procedure, then they will have no longer any access to that knowledge. Whereas if we teach for thinking, then we're making connections and we're figuring out why things are, how they're connected to each other, what might be a way to derive that if I've forgotten something. So one of the things I do in my classroom all the time is I'll say, here is why this is, and then we'll go back to the precursor skill and I'll show the process to get there. And then we'll discuss the fact of why would I even show that? And we come to the conclusion that I'm showing you this and we're learning this and we're discussing this because if you forget the procedure, you're out of luck if you don't have an understanding of the concept. So when we turn around and we understand where it came from and how it came to be, that it's not just plucked out of the air, it's not just magic, that it's actually a logical reasoning to get from point A to point C or D. Once we do that, then if we've forgotten a procedure, it's not that big of a deal for us to derive it, to figure it out, to figure out what's going to happen and why it is going to be. So when we can make those connections, it makes us stronger thinkers, stronger problem solvers, stronger in perseverance. We understand that we're self-sufficient in a way, that we're not going to be having to depend on memorizing discrete ideas. We can only do that for so long. Okay, just try to remember something back from 7th grade and you'll see what I mean. You had it then, you had memorized it, but you don't remember it anymore. You haven't needed it. Okay. The second myth is that mimicry equals mastery. Mimicry, dealing with the whole copying of a procedure, of following a routine, that we do this all the time. And one of the things that we get stuck in, one of the ruts that we get stuck in, is with certain concepts that tend to be more knowledge-based. Think order of operations, for instance. And when we're dealing with those type of concepts, we can easily revert to a procedure, but then there's no understanding. And if we put a different thing in here, if we add something, if we make it look a little different, then suddenly we don't know what to do. So mimicry does not equal mastery. It is possible to get 100% on a test one day, the next day get given a question, even a question from that very test. I've done this. And the students look at you and don't know how to complete the question. If they had mastered the concept, then it wouldn't be a problem. But the problem is that we are evaluating mimicry at times when we think we're evaluating mastery. And so we learn to equate those two. They got good marks on that. That's all good and well at that point in time. But give it to them a month later. Give it to them in a slightly different format and see what's happening there. That will be a better indicator of mastery than that one snapshot ever will. So there's two myths. The first is, and we're going to reword this one now, is that thinking is not the prize or the reward. Thinking is learning. And the second idea that was a myth, and we're going to reword that, is that mimicry does not equal mastery, that thinking equals mastery. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please subscribe to my channel. You've got this.